Maryland basketball lands a big four-star commit.
You are Locked On Terps, your daily podcast on the Maryland Terps, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everyone? I'm Tre Moore, host of Locked On Terps, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So thank you guys for making us part of your day. And today's episode is brought to you by the Gametime app. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Maryland basketball lands a big four-star commit in Adama Tambadou. So this is a little bit of a break into the football season. I know we've talked a lot of football, and I kind of expected today for us to talk about football in the first segment until we got this news. And I honestly kind of forgot about this, that this kid, Adama Tambadou, was making his decision today. And Buzz Williams, let me say this, is doing a really good job recruiting. So far. And Maryland basketball lands another four-star rated prospect and another kid that I think we're all excited about. We think is going to be a really good player. I read a bunch about him, have a pretty good sense of what he is so far. He's our second player in the 2026 class, and we're starting to build definitely a solid 2026 class. I thought our 2025 class was really good for Buzz Williams getting to the program late. I still thought he was able to land some guys. I still thought he was able to get us in the right spot. But now this is the first class, the 2026 class, where it's really all about he has time. He has the entire cycle. It's not like everything's forced. And we're seeing him come up with some different players. And there's a lot of other players that we're still on the board for. But we get this kid, Adama Tambadou, not the easiest to pronounce, but is rated as a four-star rated prospect, about ranked as a top kind of 120 ranked player on 247 composite, a little bit higher. He's ranked as the 18th best power forward and the number 2 ranked player in Connecticut. So it's definitely been a key trend right now. And I want to start with this. Buzz Williams is not only recruiting in the DMV, he's recruiting outside the DMV better than what he is recruiting inside the DMV. And that's something we did not see with Kevin Willard, and we haven't seen a ton of for Maryland basketball. Yeah, we would get a recruit here or there that was outside the DMV that was pretty good, high-level types of guys, but those were more down-the-radar types of prospects, development types of guys. Buzz Williams is going to recruit anyway. That's pretty clear to me. And we see that with this pickup of Adama, is that Buzz Williams is going to go anywhere for players. He's not going to stay in one region. He's not going to stay in the DMV. He's not going to stay in a state. He's not going to stay in an area. He's going to go out and get really who he wants to build this program. And he's doing that at a pretty high level. If you look at the difference between what Buzz Williams is bringing in terms of players and where they're from versus what Kevin Willard was doing on the recruiting trail, it's completely different. If you look at Kevin Willard, look at all of his classes, his 2023 class. Remember when it was Jamie Kaiser, Jonathan Lamoth, Deshaun Harris-Smith? It was like the next big class for Maryland basketball, all four-star rated guys at the time, but all from the DMV. If you look at the next class, Derek Queen was kind of the big pickup. Malachi Palmer was kind of on the edge of the DMV, but Derek Queen was kind of the big part. And Baltimore, I know it's not maybe officially considered in the DMV, but when you think of recruiting, it is in the DMV. You just can't get too technical when you think about recruiting. And we're seeing Buzz Williams do something completely different. And it's an interesting kind of approach. And I do think it's a different philosophy with Maryland basketball now in terms of players, in terms of who they're going to go after, in terms of Buzz Williams and his staff. It's not going to be one where isn't going to be just DMV. He's gonna recruit from all over. And so we're seeing that with Maryland basketball, who right now has the 15th ranked class in the 2026 class. We also have that kid, Austin Brown, who's one of the better shooters I thought in the 2026 class. Smooth stroke, 6'7", 185 pounds. Adama Tambadou is 6'7", 230 pounds. So this is what I kind of read about him and what I kind of gather and how I think he can help this program. I think there's a couple different things. He is a little bit undersized for his power forward position. So he is kind of a little bit undersized. I think when you think about guys that play the 4, you probably want them in college basketball closer to 6'9", upwards of that. 6'10", 6'11", obviously is beneficial, but I think you want a guy who's going to play the 4 closer to 6'9". 6'7" is a little bit small, but there's plenty of undersized players in college basketball. We're not in the NBA. Not everyone's going to be of size. And I think when I read about his game, when I read about Adam Finkelstein has a nice report, a nice scouting report that I'm able to kind of understand about him, is that this kid, Adama, it seems like he's a little bit on the rawer side, but has a really high ceiling. And he seems like he still has ways to improve, still has ways to get better. But what he does with his physicality, his athleticism, is something that you can't really teach, it seems like. And it sounds like he plays with like an unlimited type of motor, like one of those guys at 6'7" that are just going to play insanely hard. And I think that's what Buzz Williams wants. I think Buzz Williams wants guys that play extremely hard. Like, to me, that's kind of the Buzz Williams culture. And I think it's a little bit, I'm not saying Kevin Willard didn't want guys that play hard, but that feels like that's like going to be a big component of this team. And it's something that we want to really do, is we want our guys to play hard. We want our guys to step up in that type of way. And I think we're going to see that with Buzz Williams' team. But apparently Adama plays at an insanely high motor and a really high level in terms of his effort. But in AAU, he averaged 15.6 points, 10.9 rebounds, and 2.5 blocks per game. So I think one thing that we're going to see a strength really early on is defensively. He's going to be one of the better defensive players on our team right away. It seems like at 6'7", at his size, with his length, with his strength, he's going to be able to guard multiple positions at the 4 spot, which is something that's really important for today's game for Maryland basketball. So I think we're going to see that physicality from him. And it sounds like somewhere else that he's really elite at, which we've seen with undersized 4s, I feel like, before. I can't think of like a real example in my head, but we've definitely seen players in this mold. He sounds like he's one of the better offensive rebounders in their class, especially for his size. There's something else that's really interesting. He gets 4.5 of those per game. And so he's a really good finisher at the rim as well. So he finishes well and the offensive rebounds. At the 4 spot, there's not too much more you can ask for, but it does say he shoots a little bit of threes, 30% from the 3-point line on 1.6 attempts per game, 66% from the free throw line. So that's where some of the rawness comes in. And that's where some of the spots where he has to improve and continue to get better, it seems like, is at the free throw line, is hitting those types of shots. So that's something that Maryland can develop. Maryland can hopefully turn him into a 3-point shooter as well. Because then if you get a guy with that motor that can also stretch out and shoot a little bit, I'm not talking about a guy that needs to shoot 40% from 3, but he's already shooting 30%. If we could get it to like the 33, 34%, then you got a really good player. And there's a reason he's a 4-star. He definitely has talent. I think he's going to be a really good player for Maryland basketball. And I think it's a big pickup for Buzz Williams. Let's talk about Maryland's defensive line. It's the best one I've seen under Mike Locksley. We'll talk about that next. This episode is brought to you by The Square, your favorite neighborhood spots run on The Square. There are certain businesses that truly make the neighborhood feel like home, whether it's the local sports bar packed on game days, the coffee shop that knows your order by heart, or the corner deli that's been serving your community for decades. These are the places that bring people together. When neighborhood businesses thrive, the whole neighborhood thrives. In my neighborhood, there are a couple places that come alive every Sunday during football season. Everyone's in team colors, the energy is incredible, and it feels like the entire block is in there cheering together. It's the kind of place where you can walk in and everyone knows your name. The staff are like family, and they've been serving this community for years. Spending money there doesn't just support the business, it supports the people behind it and the community around it. Square is a proud partner of more than 4 million neighborhoods businesses around the world. You can go to square.com/go into Locked on College to learn more. But before you do, go support your favorite neighborhood spot. You'll be happy you did. Square, see you in the neighborhood. College football is back, and I couldn't be more excited. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stand, there's nothing like it. But let's be real. Actually getting tickets can feel like a battle of the game itself. Endless queues, hidden fees, prices jumping at checkout. That's why I use Gametime, the app that gives the advantage back to fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. I pulled up the Gametime, and in just a couple of taps, I saw amazing deals. I'm talking about your favorite college football game as low as $25. The app made it super simple. I could even see the exact view from my seat before buying. I love zone deals too. Pick the section, Gametime picks the seats, and you save big. Honestly, it's faster, cheaper, and less stressful than any other way I bought tickets. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with the college football tickets with Gametime. Download your Gametime app, create an account, and use code Locked on College for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go download the Gametime app today. So I think Maryland has the best defensive line I've honestly seen under Mike Locksley and in the Maryland Mike Locksley era. So I've always kind of feel like I've complained for a couple of different reasons for Maryland football. There's a couple of different reasons on both sides of the ball. I feel like we don't run the ball well enough and we don't run the ball enough for the last couple of years. This isn't just this year. And then also on the defensive side, we don't have really any dudes up front. We never have guys that I'm like, yeah, that's a dude, or yeah, that guy's going to make a ton of plays. Maryland has guys up front this year for Maryland football on the defense side of things. In terms of the offense, the run game, it's still kind of bad. But this is something that Locksley did a really good job. And we have to give credit where credit is due. Locksley did a significant job of addressing the Maryland defensive line this year. And it looks like this unit is going to be really good the entire season. And it's been good so far. And we got our first taste of seeing it actually play well against a Big Ten team against Wisconsin. And we're seeing a couple different guys up front play at a really high level. But I think we're also seeing some depth up front. A lot of different players are making plays. And I think that's what's exciting. You have to start on the edge. The two kids, Sydney Stewart, the two freshmen, Sydney Stewart and Zahir Mathis, we talked about them a ton, but they're just playing at a really high level for freshmen. For freshman edges, they're playing at a really high level, a position that is hard to come in right away and make an impact. It's just different physicality-wise. It's hard. But Sydney Stewart and Zahir Mathis are different types of athletes. They're guys that we just don't normally get. To be completely honest. And Sydney Stewart was a low-level recruit, so we kind of lucked into having him come off the edge and be a freak show for us. But Zahir Mathis was a pretty high-level 4-star rated recruit. And both of those guys are creating pressure on the quarterback. They're stopping the run, tackles for loss. Both were on a list I saw for freshman standouts this week, along with their counterpart with Malik Washington. And so we're seeing us get actual edge pressure this year, something that hasn't happened always for Maryland football. And the way that Sydney Stewart comes off the edge, I think he has a sack in every single game so far, already 4 sacks. I think I projected him to get maybe 5 or 6, I said, on the year. And he might be a double-digit sack guy year one, the way that he's playing. You just can't block him. His explosive presence is just something I haven't seen. Same exact thing with Zahir Mathis, who did a really good job in the run game against Wisconsin. 6 tackles for Zahir Mathis on the edge, doing some really good things. And they're the ones that get the headline. They're the ones that I feel like everyone kind of talks about. But there's another part of this that I think people aren't really talking as much about of guys that are also playing at a really high level. And it's the guys on the interior, the guys on the inside, our defensive tackle types of guys. And I think a lot of those guys are also playing really well. Cam Rice playing at a really high level, 3 tackles, 1 sack against Wisconsin. We saw Edwin Moore Jr. playing really well. Joel Starling's another transfer, had a sack, playing really well. We're just seeing a bunch of different guys up front have an impact from the bottom of our roster, from the bottom of those guys to the top of those guys. And I said it, there's so many transfers that we brought in on the defensive line. I was like, I don't know exactly who's going to be good, but I know that we're going to have depth for one. And the fact that Mike Loxley brought in all these different guys, you feel like somebody has to kind of come out of the pack and end up being good for Maryland football in that group. And so that's kind of why I was like, it's kind of a trial and error. It's like you're trying out all these different guys. Somebody's going to work out. Somebody's going to end up being good, I thought, for Maryland football. And I feel like that's kind of what started to happen, and that's what's starting to kind of show for Maryland football. And so against Wisconsin, we saw the group that was able to create pressure, one, on the quarterback, something that I feel like I haven't really seen us do against a Big Ten offensive line in a while consistently. And through the first 4 games, we've been able to do that. And then we stopped the run at a really high level. The leading rusher, 14 carries, 52 yards with a 3.7 average. Dylan Jones, 6 carries, 20 yards, 3.3 average. They just couldn't do anything against us on the ground, which is really good to see for Maryland football. So we're stopping the run. We're getting to the quarterback, and there's not much else we can ask for the Maryland offensive line. And I think it's really going with our secondary as well. I think it's easier for our secondary to play well, and we're seeing our secondary play at a pretty high level as well, which I think is kind of important for Maryland football. And I think it's really being kind of benefited actually from the defensive line playing at a high level. And I feel like in the past, we've had good secondaries. We've had good guys up front, but it's just like they can't really do what we want them to do consistently because they just cover too long. But this year, I feel like we're not seeing that as much. And so I think the defensive line unit's been really good. Other position groups have been really good, but I think that's been the biggest surprise for me because I wasn't sure with bringing in all these people. I wasn't sure exactly how it was going to work, but so far it's worked pretty well for Maryland football. And so we definitely want to continue to see that. We definitely want to see the defensive line unit continue to play well, but it's definitely exciting for Maryland football knowing that we have guys up front that are doing their things, guys up front that are playing at a pretty high level. So that was definitely great to see from Maryland football. Sorry, the basketball segment got me messed up. Let's talk about Maryland getting votes for the top 25. Do I think Maryland should be ranked? We'll talk about that next. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride, with more IIHS Top Safety Pick Plus awards than anyone else. From footwork to breathwork, athletes sweat all the details. Mazda brings the same intention to how we craft every model. You can feel Japanese craftsmanship in every detail, from the metallic accents to available Napa leather upholstery. You can make everyday drives feel like anything but. From smooth handling to intuitive controls. With all-wheel drive standards in every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence through almost any season. And like our players, we sweat every detail because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. So Maryland football received 6 votes to be ranked, it seems like, in the AP Top 25. And here's my stance on it. I'll be completely honest with you guys. I don't think the Terps have done enough yet to be ranked. I just don't. And I want to be like, argue, yeah, we should be ranked. Yeah, we should be in the top 25. They are disrespecting us, all these different things. But I'm just not there. I'm just not there. I think we've been a really good football team, and I think we've done a lot of things well and a lot of things better than I thought we would be doing. But I don't think our resume yet, and I think a lot of you guys would agree, has made up a top 25 resume. The first 3 games of the season are basically like winning nothing. Like, I don't want to say it was like winning nothing, but there was really no shot we lost any of those first 3 games. And so it just wasn't going to happen. None of those teams were very good. None of those teams we had to worry about. That just wasn't something that we had to really worry about as pretty easy games. And then you got into the fourth game of the season against Wisconsin, like first real opponent, somebody decent. I don't know if Wisconsin's going to be a good team this year. To be completely frank, to be completely honest with you guys, they have a ton of problems. They have coaching problems for one. They feel a little bit like Maryland last year, where they have some talent, they have some guys, they have some different players that they brought in, but I just don't know if they're a good team. To be completely honest, I don't know if it's going to come together. A lot of people are doubting Coach Fickell and what he's brought so far to the Wisconsin Badgers, and fans want him fired, and there's a lot of different components in Wisconsin, and we just got to look at it at both sides. There's just a lot of different problems. The way that they played against us was just kind of disgraceful. Like, they played a pretty bad game. As much as credit I'm going to give to Maryland football for that, you got to look at the other side too. Like, that was a terrible game from Wisconsin to let us win by 17 points. Like, I thought Maryland, it's clear Maryland's the better team. Maryland's the better quarterback. Maryland has a little bit more playmakers, maybe a little bit more guys on the defense side of the ball. But Wisconsin was 8-point favorites. Like, that was an embarrassing game or what was it, 10-point favorite? That was an embarrassing game for Wisconsin. So that's definitely something else that I think that we have to take into account. And so I just think what we've done so far in kind of the levels to what Wisconsin is right now, I don't think it deserves to be ranked yet. How we came into this year is inexperienced team that a lot of people were really down on. A lot of people thought we wouldn't be good. And so we had the bye week coming up. And so the bye week's always interesting because you don't know who's kind of going to beat each other up at the top of it. Like, different teams could kind of beat each other up. Like, there's different things that could end up happening for Maryland football in terms of this weekend. There's a lot of good games, whatever the case is. I don't think we'll get in after this week. But I think you start to look at Maryland football a lot differently. Like, right now, a lot of people have our attention. But if you want to really get attention, you beat Washington. And similar to Wisconsin, Washington plays Ohio State this week. Remember, Wisconsin before us played Alabama. So there is kind of a sense of being a little bit beat up after playing a really good Ohio State team that we know has dudes everywhere. I think there is a component to that. If you beat Washington, I think we deserve to be ranked, especially a Washington team that's been pretty good, especially if Washington plays well against Ohio State, which I'm not sure they'll do. Don't know too much about this Washington team yet. Still have to watch them. Still have to kind of figure them out. We still low-key have a while until we start talking about them. But I think, to me, is that we do definitely have to start looking at Washington and saying, if we win that game, I think we deserve some respect in terms of ranking, in terms of different things like that. I think that is something that has to happen for Maryland football if we end up winning that game. Now, it won't be easy to win that game. That's not a walk in the park, especially, like I said, if Washington plays well against Ohio State. Even if they don't win that game, that's definitely a team in Washington that we look at as pretty good. It's at home, Big Ten team, good quarterback, showing a lot of flashes so far this year, being a good team. I think you look at Maryland football differently if they win that game. Now, I don't know if that's going to happen. I'm not sure, but I think having 6 votes is honestly where we should be right now. I think it's above where I thought we would be so far in the season, 4-0. The goal is to get to 6 wins before the season for me, and I think that's still kind of relatively the goal. Maybe we'll talk about that another day, but I think Maryland football is doing a pretty good job. I don't think we deserve to be ranked yet. That's all we have for today. Thank you guys for listening to Locked On Terps. Make sure you like and subscribe. We're every day talking Maryland football and basketball, so thank you guys for listening to Locked On Terps.